Let's talk about the ivory tower. So scholarly work involves this whole process to get to the stuff that we consider academically credible, and this is a really rough sketch, but let's go through the gist of that process. You start with a foundation of past scholarship to build on, and equipped with that, you move on to observation and ideation. Looking at stuff and thinking about it. There's not much structure here. You just kind of poke around at questions that you want to ask that don't have easy answers in the existing research. Once you come up with questions, you move on to investigation and discourse. Talk to the people who think about this stuff and poke around to see what folks are saying. This helps you refine your question and think through how to go about answering it, and then you move on to methodological investigation. Now, there are tons of methodologies out there that create different kinds of answers for different types of questions. Like, experimentation is good for finding causal relationships in physical phenomena. Ethnography is good for learning about the qualities of specific cultures or communities. Critical discourse analysis is good at looking at power relationships in media. What matters is that you use a method that people understand so that they can evaluate whether they think you did a good job using it. Next up is formal documentation. You write a paper, put your claims, argument, and evidence in an organized form. Then there's formal evaluation. And listen, don't get me fucking started on peer review. That's a whole goddamn video essay. But in theory, this is where your peers review your work to see whether you did it right in an organized way. And then finally, there's publication, which is like a debutante ball for an idea. It introduces the idea to society. And this whole thing is the argument for academic credibility, right? Like, you can trust academic sources in a way that you can't trust other sources because there's this elaborate process of checking and rechecking claims. And look, I know this thing is pretty tower-shaped, but this is not the ivory tower. It's the fact that every goddamn part of this process is fucking secret. We're asking people to treat the academy as credible because we have this whole process, but anytime somebody's like, I want to see that process at work, the answer's, trust us, bro. No wonder people compare the academy to the church, because as wild as that comparison is from the inside, from an outside perspective, there's no perceptible difference between we did this whole thing, because look, we wrote a paper saying so, and God told us, because look, we wrote down what he said. And listen, I'm not a privacy abolitionist. Some of these walls are necessary, because it's hard to think about stuff when you have to entertain every ill-informed critical perspective that happens to come across your work. As a repeated burnout TikTok creator, I can tell you for sure that exposing every part of the research process to public comment would kill that process dead. But this is like definitely way too much, right? Apart from the parts of the process that are just busted, look out for my upcoming video essay on peer review, we act like some of these things just don't happen, as if coming up with dumb ideas and poking at them to see if they hold up isn't an essential part of it. The work I'm setting out to do for my dissertation is experimentation in the forms of academic publishing, and a big part of that is going to be looking at where else in this stack we can punch out some windows. If you want to see all this happen, by the way, back me on Patreon, because this area of research couldn't be more unfundable by grant funding if it tried, and I am not going to have a job waiting for me when I graduate. Share this with the academics in your life. Ask them which parts of academic secrecy they think are necessary and which parts could ease up a bit, and tell them to share those thoughts here because I could really use that data.